As the battle for Mosul intensifies, we hear an appeal for urgent international aid for those fleeing Daesh. And we meet the former Oklahoma DJ who's been dubbed the Snapchat Imam. I'm Shuli Ghosh. This is Insight. Hello there and welcome to the programme. The mission to retake Iraq's second largest city from Daesh is underway, and there are growing fears for civilians trying to flee the fighting. There are already some 3 million displaced Iraqis in the region, many of whom have been victims of rape and torture. Now, the battle for Mosul is likely to create many more. Dr. Nizar Ismet Taib is the Director General of Health for the Duhok region, north of Mosul. He works with the Ammar Foundation, which supports victims of conflict in Iraq. He says there's an urgent need for international help. Insight's Dana Lewis went to meet him.
Dr. Nizar Taib, you are in charge of the Ministry of Health around the province of Dohuk. As you know, the battle for Mosul has begun in very ferocious ways. Today, you must feel great fear for civilians that can get caught in harm's way now.
We are expecting thousands of people to flee ISIL from Mosul and come to Kurdistan region of Iraq in the north, like the Duhok and to Erbil sides. And the UN expectation is more than 1 million people to displace, and half of them to come to these areas.
As the military activity has been ramping up, and talk of the Iraqi army taking back Mosul has been going on for months now. Has there been retribution attacks that you're hearing about inside Mosul? What has Daesh been doing there?
Yeah, we are hearing very bad news that Daesh is trying to chase all the people who send information out. They torture them. They are going from house to house. The stories that we are hearing from inside Mosul is really bad. Regarding the humanitarian situation, inside Mosul is really bad because they don't have an access to electricity, to water, to also a good amount of food, and they are living under a very terrified situation. People don't know what will happen, how the ISIL will go out and how the army is coming in. So the civilians are really in bad situation.
Why haven't they left ahead of the military action? Because they cannot?
In the very beginning, maybe they were able, but they were not aware who is Daesh and how evil they are. They were thinking they may come and they will be better from the Iraqi police or soldiers that were inside Mosul before. But this was not the case. After that, they were unable to go out because the ISIL will not allow them. Anyone who tried to escape Mosul and ISIL found them, or Daesh found them, they actually killed them in public.
Is there fear now that some of the Iraqi army that is coming, I mean, a lot of it is comprised of Shia militias and Shia units, do people fear that there's going to be a bloodletting there between the Sunnis and the Shia army as it comes in?
Yes, the people are afraid of that, and that's why the commanders are trying to overcome this problem by selecting who is going into the Mosul, whether the Iraqi army or the militia. So what is happening now that the Peshmerga will take back the villages to the north and to the east of the Mosul, and then the army will go in, and then the Shia also will come to the surrounding Mosul. But the city itself, I think mainly the army and the Sunni fighters can go in.
Some of the Sunnis who left, and then those Sunni that cooperated with Daesh, is there going to be an evening of accounts, payback now?
I hope this will not happen, but this is also expected because there will be a revenge from different people, and I don't think that they can control everyone, but we hope this will not be the case.
Do you think there are mass graves in Mosul. There's been a lot of talk about the video that surfaced then. There was a lot of killing in Mosul when Daesh first took control.
I think yes, there is mass grave, especially against Yazidi, because they killed many men in graves. From the stories that we hear from the women and girls who managed to escape Daesh and came to the Hook, and they are talking about horrible stories. People, men killed in groups or beheaded in front of them. So we are expecting mass graves around Mosul, mainly in the Yazidi areas.
Let's talk about just broader territory, not just Mosul, but the crimes committed by Daesh on people that you have then seen, and especially women, have been quite severe.
Yes, the impact of the trauma people suffer under Daesh control is huge. You cannot imagine. I can bring a few examples.
Please.
Like a woman in captivity being raped in front of her 6 years old boy, or a woman who was afraid that her only 13 years daughter will be raped in front of her. She tried to throw her from the roof of the house, and that's horrible. Our others were raped or enslaved several times by different men of Daesh. These are the traumas that the people are suffering from.
Rapes that happened not just once, but many women were supposedly repeatedly raped. And how young?
Yeah, the women and girls, we received them in our women's center in the Hook. Their ages varies from 8 years to 70.
I'm sorry, 8 years?
Yes, 8 years. You cannot imagine. 8, 9, 11, 13, and so those who are below 15, they are regarded around 20% of the women who were raped many times by Daesh fighters. It's terrible. These people, these young girls are severely traumatized. They are really numbed and dissociated from this world.
So you're really dealing not just with health problems, you're dealing with the psychological problems of this very brutal war which has taken place. Yeah. How do you deal with that? How do you try and help those people?
You know, the psychological treatment and the psychosocial support is really needed and is becoming priority for these people. But when it comes to psychological support, the efforts are very few and cannot fit their needs. Most of them, maybe all of them, underwent several traumas. Many of them developed consequences of those trauma, having post-traumatic stress disorder or depression or suicide. So they are in great need to the treatment, which is not available for everyone. We have around 5 psychiatrists now.
Okay, you have tens of thousands of refugees and you have 5
only 5 psychiatrists.
You need more help.
Of course.
Look, there's been a lot of trauma in every war zone. And by saying that, in no way do I want to diminish what is taking place there. But it seems to me, when you look at the scale of how it has affected people there, it may be unprecedented in a way. Do you feel that it's just hard to calculate how many people and how deep the trauma is there?
I think it's very difficult because those people underwent so severe traumas. Traumas, maybe no one is there just to think about it, and they underwent those kind of traumas. So the harm is huge and is very deep. So to treat them, it needs time, needs efforts, needs regular programs.
Can you help them after what they've been through? How do you help them? And how does the international community reach out and try and help you? You need resources.
Of course, we are trying our best to help them. I can help some of them, but not all of them. We need help, and we need the international community to feel responsible for that and help us.
How do you personally feel about Daesh after all that you've witnessed?
I feel they are evil. They don't belong to humanity. They are against anything called humanity. I think Daesh is like a cancer that if one is metastasis, it is very hard to control, but it needs efforts. So even cancer, you can treat it, but you need a good protocol, a good plan. The international community, the coalition forces has to get rid of the fighters of Daesh as soon as possible.
Dr. Tayyab, it's a pleasure to talk to you, and good luck with your work that is so important.
Thank you very much indeed. It was my pleasure.
Well, to discuss this further, I'm joined by David Hurst, who's editor at the Middle East Eye. That's an online news organisation covering events in that region. David, good to have you with us. We were hearing quite a graphic account there of the kind of brutalities inflicted on people, particularly women and girls, under Daesh. There is no doubt that there are a lot of horrific experiences.
Well, Daesh are terrorists in the pure sense of the word, that they use terror. They don't have that many fighters, and so they use terror and they use the most brutal means and death to keep ruling. That we already know there have been 2 insurrections, all of whom have been brutally dealt with in the run-up to this current operation to retake Mosul. And they've dealt with their victims by drowning them. It's effective. It's effective in the sense that everyone is so terrified of what will happen, and all the indications are, and already the sort of multi-pronged assault has halted in the outlying villages, is that Daesh are extremely well dug in, literally dug in. They've got tunnels. They've plans to infiltrate the advancing lines by running.
By all accounts, they're hiding out amongst the civilians, and
that's right.
They're undoubtedly planting bombs and landmines and booby-trapping buildings. We've seen that happen in Fallujah and Tikrit. There is little doubt that the operation to retake Mosul is going to be extremely long and extremely complicated.
Yes, and this is also one of the things that affects the fears of the residents of Mosul, whether they run for it and to whom they are running. I mean, one of the big doubts, certainly about Fallujah and Tikrit, was how IDPs were treated, particularly by the Shia militia, when they escaped Daesh. And
this is a massive problem because there are reports that Shia militia carried out revenge assaults on Sunni Arabs. Some quite terrible stories of brutalization, which is being denied by the militias and by the Iraq government. But clearly there is a huge gulf of mistrust between the Sunni Arabs and the Shia.
Well, there's quite a body of evidence that's been built up. It's not just allegations. There was a very good report issued by Amnesty International yesterday. There was a previous one from Human Rights Watch. There's an awful lot of testimony from the victims of these war crimes about actually what happened in 2 villages in particular in Fallujah last year. And there's every reason to doubt that that will actually happen again.
That's what the Amnesty report was saying, and in fact they were, as you say, detailing incidences where men and boys were being tortured, were being disappeared, and the government has responded, the Iraq government has responded by making a few arrests, having an investigation, but spinning it as a few individual cases.
Yeah, this is the rotten apple theory, and we've seen this before in police investigations. It is obviously much more widespread than a few individual cases. And I think there are real fears behind this, sectarian fears. I mean, one of the reasons why Mosul fell in the first place was because of the history of sectarian attacks, was because Sunnis as such were being cut out of any political representation under the former Prime Minister, Nouri al-Maliki. Now, Abadi has pledged, under a great deal of pressure, to create a cross-confessional government to rule on behalf of all Iraqis. But the attacks continue, the militias continue, and the fears continue. The other real doubt in my mind is what has happened to the cities, the Sunni cities, that have been liberated a long time ago. What's happened to Tikrit? What's happened to Ramadi? And most of the residents of this, particularly Ramadi, 300,000 people, are still out there. They're still out and displaced. They're not back in the cities.
Exactly. A very complex situation. Of course, we wait to see what happens with Mosul. David, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. You're watching Insight. Coming up, I'll be meeting the man known as the Snapchat Imam. Stay with us.